All right, you guys, I'm gonna level with you. This conversation hit me in the gut in the best possible way. I recorded an episode with Dr. Monica Gomberg earlier this morning, and I have not been able to stop thinking about it all day. I wish this episode was 3 hours long. I'm just telling you, because Dr. Monica Gomberg, she is the kind of endocrinologist who just gets it. Like not just the tech or the settings or my A1C or my pump stuff, but the part where you walk into an appointment already bracing yourself for judgment. The part where you're thinking like, please don't tell me that I'm doing a bad job, doc. I'm already trying so hard. So Dr. Monica, she's the lead endocrinologist at Blue Circle Health, and she has been doing this for well over 15 years. She's worked in huge hospital systems. She's trained other endos. And now she's part of like this radical new model that gives people with type 1 actual access to care, like for free. And in this episode, like she brings some heat. So we end up talking about the technology that makes us smarter and why endo appointments or doctor's appointments feel like report card day, and you feel like you've got that dread. And then she has a line in here where she talks about what she really wants people with type 1 to know before they ever step into that clinic room. And it's, listen, if you have ever left a doctor's appointment thinking they don't see me, they don't get me, this episode is going to feel like a warm hug. I'm just telling you, prepare to be seen and heard. This is my conversation with Dr. Monica Gomberg, and this is your best T1D year. Dr. Monica Gomberg, I'm going to brag about you a lot. I've already done it at the beginning of the show. I think it's super, super important. Tell me a little bit about how you decided to get into endocrinology, because that is not like a field that people are just fighting over each other to get into. Like, what got you into this?
Gosh, I so wish it was something people were fighting over. I know.
Yeah.
Well, first off, I wanted to thank you for that, and thank you for having me. I went into endocrinology. Really, I went to medical school because I wanted to develop long-term relationships with patients. And that's what I fell in love with about medicine. You can really talk to someone, learn about their life. And what I loved was not the in and out, not a surgery and you're done. It's the fact that, though we can't get along without those wonderful surgeons, but the fact that I can talk to someone and talk to them about their husband, their wife, their children, their grandparents, their life, and get to know them on a personal level. And that to me is what makes life worthwhile and what makes that conversation with the patient so meaningful. And so I wanted to develop that. And that is, chronic health conditions. That is seeing patients over time. And so I went in with that mindset. To be honest, fell into an endocrinology rotation and immediately felt that that was my home, that was my place, because I feel like diabetes specifically encompasses all of that your blood sugar, your influence of devices, your choice of what you do with your diabetes is influenced by many people, if they were diagnosed as kids, influenced by their family, and many as adults as well. But there's so many influences in that. And I love that conversation. And so that's how I landed where I am and what I do. And I'm so happy to be here.
So you're literally saying it's bigger than just one time. Like we look at endocrinology as a specialty, and you're saying, no, it actually kind of wraps around the whole person, their entire life, their lifestyle. I didn't even think about that. So I was diagnosed, I was 19, and I can't genuinely remember much of life before. Like, I don't remember what it was like just to sit down and eat something and not care or even think about, but like that's different for somebody who's diagnosed as later on as an adult with LADA, or you're, 3 years old. You definitely don't. I didn't even think about how much your upbringing plays into that. That's kind of wild.
It is wild. It is wild. I diagnosed an 88-year-old woman in my practice right before coming here. And imagine her entire life was set in one way. And it was very, very hard to think about it differently. And it's interesting in that respect that her son was the one helping with the changes in all of this surrounding her life. And so it was really including that family in that process and seeing how all these different dynamics come together and influence her diagnosis and her course.
Is that the oldest person that you have ever diagnosed with? I've never heard of that before.
It is the oldest person that I have diagnosed. Yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
I can't even imagine. Yeah. You want to talk about setting your ways.
Yes.
There's no, you're not getting me out of that rut. I can't imagine what her son is doing. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. Okay. This, I know we talk about this all the time with Blue Circle Health. We talk about that most counties, like right in the United States, you know, what is the stat? I forget what it is, like 70%?
70% of counties in the United States do not have an endocrinologist within it. Yes, it is dire.
Okay. I did a little bit of research on this. Are there about like 8,000 practicing endos in the United States?
That is what I am reading, and that fact includes peds and adults. And the numbers have to fluctuate. Yes. So you think about it, there's nobody, right? There's a very small number. It's split between an entire different field. And by the way, peds endocrinology do a training in pediatric care, and adults do a training in adult care. And so you can't just fluctuate between the two, which I feel like a lot of people actually don't realize.
You can't just jump back and forth from, okay.
Right.
Okay. So if there is, I'm doing the math on this. I'm not, first of all, I'm not a math person, but I think what that number comes out to, with the amount of people living in the United States with type 1 diabetes, that means that there is about roughly one endocrinologist for every 5,000 people living with type 1 in the US.
Yes.
That's bananas. Like that doesn't math, right?
No, it doesn't math. And if you think about it, I wish that those endocrinologists could spend their time with everyone living with type 1 diabetes. But you imagine there's also a lot of other endocrinology conditions. And so you're also fighting against the fact that there's a limited number of people, limited number of appointments, and then a limited number of slots in which are dedicated to diabetes. It's hard. And the outcomes are not as great when you don't have someone who knows about diabetes in the way that training, should.
Do most people, I don't know what the number is on this. I'm just winging it here. I feel like a lot of people go see their primary care physician. They're just their general doctor for their type 1, and because they don't have an endo. Is that true? Like, I feel like those numbers are high.
It is true. The majority of people are seeing their primary care doctor for their T1D care, and that is for various reasons. One, because they have an amazing primary care doctor who knows a lot about type 1 and feels very comfortable. And unfortunately, that's few and far between, just because that's not their field, and understandably. And then everyone else doesn't have access to one, or can't get access, or doesn't have the ability to pay for one. And so that across the board is just turning into a lot of people not getting the care that they deserve, and then, not having the outcomes that they so desire.
That's so wild. When we did the Bike Beyond documentary, these cyclists are going across the U.S. and they would stop in these little tiny towns. They would meet up with anybody who had type 1 in that town. They did these little pop-ups all over the place. And there was a town in, I want to say it's Colorado, that this little boy, I think let's call him 5 years old. He's the only person that has type 1 diabetes in their town of several thousand people, but they have to drive almost 3 hours to go get or to see someone who specializes or knows or understands, because he's the only one in their town that has it. And there are no other doctors. Like, driving this, like, that's 3 hours one way is a huge commitment. I know what you're doing with Blue Circle Health. That's virtual, right? You're on a call with people all in what, is it 11 states right now? I think
we're in 11 states now, and rapidly growing. And the intention is to say, because of these endocrinology deserts, who can drive the 3 hours every 3 months, or if you need it soon and you're newly diagnosed, that 3-month time frame hopefully is much shorter. You're getting the hands-on care that you need, and that's not the case for everyone. And so we're really trying to get into where patients are, where they live, in their home, in their work, wherever they need to access an endocrinologist. We're there by the push of a button at Blue Circle. And that's what I love about it. And I think about what you said. I have a 5-year-old, and I imagine what my 5-year-old living with something that no one else around her understands, that kids don't get, that parents don't get, that the school probably doesn't get. And then to have to find someone and drive that distance, that's really, really difficult. And we need to bridge that.
Yeah. Okay. So on a personal side of it, I know you said, you got on an endocrinology rotation and then you're like, oh, this is it. This is it for me. Was there a moment, was there like a point in there where it just like hit you in your heart, in your soul? Like what was the thing that locked that in for you?
It's interesting that you asked me on a topic in which you're talking a lot about tech in this month on your podcast, because I remember specifically being in the office with Dr. Jason Ng, who still practices in Pittsburgh, who I adore. And he was in charge of our pump, how did we call it? Pump clinic is what it was called back in the day, at where I trained. And I remember specifically being in there and getting a pump report from Medtronic back in the day. And it was very basic. And we were looking at it and analyzing it. And the fact that we can look at that number and have an impact on what the patient was saying in front of us. They were saying, this is what I'm struggling with. And we could see the report on there and say, oh, this is what I think might be something that you could try to help you. And just a light bulb go off in their head. Like, how did you know that's what I was dealing with? Like, I didn't realize, and we could see the trajectory. And so I just felt a lot of meaning in this kind of bridge between the technology, between the medication, between all the recommendations that exist out there. And again, the patient that's right in front of me. Here's what I struggle with every day. Here's what my morning's like. Oh, I could see that on here. Let me work with you and figure that out. And I just loved that feeling and that moment together, that felt like we were on the same page.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Perfect segue. You didn't know I was going to talk about this, but this is literally the perfect segue. We're talking about technology. I remember my first CGM. And my doctors were like, hey, we're going to put a CGM on you. It's going to tell us everything about your blood sugar I don't know if it was every 5 minutes at the time or whatever. And so I had to go in the office and they put this thing on me, right? It was basically the same way a CGM is now, right? It's going down in sub-Q like fluid and all that kind of stuff. But then it had a wire going out of it to a box. And I want to say it was like, I don't know, it was like bigger than my phone, like than my iPhone. And you couldn't get it wet. Right? They're like, you need to wrap this in a garbage bag when you take a shower. And I'm like, hang on, like what? Remind me again what the win of this is. Because if I'm showering with a garbage bag, this is super weird. And they're like, you're going to wear this for 3 days. You can't get it wet. And I'm like, okay, that's great. When will I be able to see, like, can I look down at this? It didn't have a screen on it. There was no anything.
Right.
And they said, no, you will bring that back to us after 3 days, and then we'll analyze it. And we'll be able to see all your blood sugars. Like in my mind, I'm still like, wow, that's pretty cool. So I do it. I wear it, clunky, whatever, 3 days. I go back to the doctors and I give it to them. And I ask that question. This is when my jaw drops. I'm like, when can we look at my numbers? I said, it's going to take us about 2 weeks. We're going to process all this information and then we'll tell you. I said, so let me just see if I get this straight. You're telling me in 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be able to find out what my blood sugar was 3 days ago. And what good is that going to do me? They're like, it's going to give us a lot of useful information. I'm like, yeah, from 2.5 weeks ago. What are we doing? That was my first CGM. And they came back and they said, yeah, you had some highs and some lows. I'm like, bro, I could have told you I had that and there's no garbage bag needed. Like, it's come a long way. Like, what part of type 1 diabetes tech do you see as being like, okay, we're starting to peak. Like, we're getting better and better and better. What part of that is you're going like thumbs up on that?
I think there's many aspects to it. And I think to me, where I think is the most exciting, where we're pushing the boundary the most is the immediacy of that information back to the patient. And I say that with a grain of salt because I also think it comes along with potentially a lot of anxiety, a lot of other concerns for the patient. but there's a lot of benefit to having that immediacy that you didn't have, that it was 2.5 weeks later. But I love the idea that it's becoming more accurate with more on the moment, being able to rely on what you're seeing in front of you. I also just like the fact that it's, there's this balance of being in your face, and balance of being behind the scenes. And I think the smaller it gets, the more behind the scenes, and yet the more in your face these alerts and these alarms are. So there is that kind of push pull, but I think there's a lot of advantage of having that immediacy, having it get more accurate on your body and more of in the moment information.
Do you see that overwhelm increasing over time? Because it's every 5 minutes, right? I can see the alerts, I can see the updates and all those types of things. Is that too much for us to handle? Like, explaining social media to my kids, I'm like, you really shouldn't. We never used to know what was going on the other side of the world, and now you have to process all of that. Yes. But when it comes to our type 1 tech, I mean, it's not minute by minute, but it's close. And sometimes that can be a lot. Like, is that overwhelming?
It's incredibly overwhelming for a lot of people, if not most people. I think that there's an aspect of diabetes care that I don't want to say ignore, but we never had the tools to best help patients with. And that is this distress and anxiety and fear of hypoglycemia, fear of hypoglycemia, perfectionism, this need or want to be exactly where you need or want to be, whatever that is defined for you. And as an endocrinologist, that's something that hopefully I had time, have time to address with you in the office. Yeah. But to be honest, you deserve more than that. You deserve more than an endocrinologist. You deserve to talk to somebody, if you have that anxiety, to talk to a counselor who understands type 1, who understands what it means to get those minute by minute alerts. And so I see a lot of that, and a lot of just general anxiety surrounding it. And it is a balance. And, you were talking about your experience where you had to put this on and it was attached and it took 2.5 weeks. And back when I started to practice, we had the Freestyle Libre Pro sensor, which was one that you put on for 2 weeks. Yep. You didn't see it. Was blinded to the patient. Yeah. And there's anxiety around that. Like, there's this new thing on my body. They don't know what's happening. But to be honest, there was also this balance of like, I'm afraid of that. There's a lot of alerts, a lot of information. Mm-hmm. You just take care of it, doc. Come back to me in 2 weeks. I get to download it in the moment, not 2.5 weeks later, and I can review it with you then. And there becomes a sense of like, I know that there's knowledge there, and I know that I don't have to be alerted and alarmed all the time. So again, there is this trade-off. But I do see a lot of that happening, and a lot of it being something that we need to address head on with patients.
It's almost like we were so excited at the possibility of being able to see our blood sugar in real time, or to have an insulin pump that is responding to that in real time. I don't know if we studied, because I don't think the FDA does tests on that side of it, right? We test the efficacy of, does this thing actually work? Is it doing what it's supposed to do? But what is the actual human side of that? How do we respond to it? And maybe we just never got trained on it, because I'll tell myself, I can be a little obsessive over it. It can be like, I want to do better. I want it to be better. And that sometimes it kind of takes me out of the moment of just living. Like, how do you help someone balance that if they are watching this thing constantly and they're trying not to get overwhelmed? What do you recommend?
It's incredibly important as a doctor who is prescribing that to a patient, first off, when it's the first time off the bat, to provide expectations, to not say, here's a CGM, you put it on your arm, I'll see you in 3 months. Oh, gosh. I think that is something that to me would be incredibly overwhelming. And I would feel like, okay, I'm going to look online and I'll get all this information and just be overwhelmed with it. And granted, there's a lot of really good information out there, but also a lot of information, period. And so to me, I think it's setting up expectations. Like, here's what to expect when you put it on. Here's what you'll look out for. Here's how to set alarms, and here's how to change alarms in ways that might be better for you. Here's what you have control over. And I think that is empowering to the patient rather than to say, like, this is what happens. I've had people come back to me and be like, it's just been going off all the time, and I didn't know that I could make this adjustment. And, and it fell off, and I didn't know what to do. And no one told me to call. Like, we have to prep patients on what to expect, and we have to be there for them. And so having that follow up, whether it's a phone call or an in-office appointment, whatever it might be, is really critical to say, what do you need? What's going on? How is this affecting you? The other thing that I find to be really helpful is going through an AGP report, that ambulatory glucose profile. So here's your printout. I know that you see all of that. Here's what I see. Here's how I look at it. If that's helpful for you, let's go through it. I share my screen when I'm on telehealth calls. And I find patients really like that because they're like, they want to point something out to me. And we can talk through it together. Or they're like, I'm stuck on this, and we can talk through it together. It's that camaraderie, that sense that we're in this together and that you're not alone in it, that I think is really important to help with some of that overwhelm.
Yeah.
It doesn't get to all of it, but it's really important to do that as a partnership.
I think you hit it right on the head, that like the expectations, setting those early on, because if not, we're left to come up with our own expectation, and we tend to fall really short of those. It's unrealistic or whatever. So like, I know that some of that can be overwhelming for patients, but where does the promise of new technology, we've got CGMs are getting more accurate, right? They're longer. You could wear them longer than what we ever could. I mean, although I think we're at 10 days, I'm like, that's miraculous in my brain from where we came from. Like, I don't want to gloss over that. But where do you see technology? Maybe it's pumps, maybe it's CGMs, maybe it's, how fast insulin works. I don't know. Where do you see that starting to, it still falls short of some of the promise or what the real life expectations are? Where are we not okay?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think patients come to me with the dream, truly, of getting on a pump and making it be so just for a minute, Dr. Gomberg, for an hour, for a day, whatever it is, just let me not have to think about this, for a second of my life, right? Like, I think that's such a dream, and they want pumps to do that. And I want pumps to help with that. And I don't think, unfortunately, that we'll ever be able to take it out of your mind entirely, but I see pumps and CGMs going to a place where if we add glucagon, we can balance out some of those highs or lows. Yep. If we continue to work on algorithms that respond more to the quick spike after meals, and we'll make it so, hey, I just didn't think about the bolus and I'll be okay. You'll still be okay, but feeling better about where you're at with those numbers. I think that there is progress there that they're already working on that to me, I'm really excited about. That advancement in the algorithm and that addition of glucagon, which glucagon, for those who don't know, is helping out manage the lows as well.
Yeah. So there is one pump that is out there that is they're working towards a dual hormone pump that would have insulin and glucagon. Most of our insulin pumps, they only have a gas pedal. They don't have a brake pedal. Yes. So it's like once you get that insulin going, and when we start, if we're dropping, all it can do is let off on the gas and we can coast, but we can't stop it. Adding glucagon is kind of like adding some brakes to it, so you could slow it down. I have no idea where they're at in that technology yet.
Right. And we keep hearing about it down the pipeline, right? We keep hearing it's coming, they're working on it. And I really hope that it's getting closer. I don't know. I haven't heard a date on it yet. But I do know that it's something that is continuously being worked on, which to me is hopeful. And I love where they're going with that. I also love where they're going with the CGM, which is, they're saying imminently coming, that will check ketones as well as your blood sugar. And this concept of keeping you safe, that's kind of where I'm getting at with both of these things, of acknowledging that there's a gas pedal, like you said, and we need some barriers here to make people feel more comfortable.
Yeah, I don't know if this is unrealistic. To like, when I think of like, what is my dream wish list? You said to not have to think about it for a minute. Could you give me 60 seconds where I'm not worried about this? I think there's a part of it where our pumps and our CGMs or whatever, they're not going to know how many carbs we just ate. But if we could put in, here's what I just ate, and then let everything else do its job, like announce the carbs and it does everything else, that would be a dream, as opposed to enter the carbs. We're kind of doing it in connection with the pump right now, depending on what pump you have. We're still very involved in that. And there's a bit of that mental load.
Right.
Will it ever get there, do you think?
I think we'll get closer. I think we'll continue to get closer and closer. Yeah. And I think that, to me, I do have hope. I really do. I do have hope that we will get there. I think that it won't be tomorrow, but that it will come down the pipeline. And I do feel that there's a lot of really hard work being done in that department. And like, the pumps already have made a lifetime of change in just the time that I've been practicing. I'm practicing for a while, but still, like, I've seen a lifetime of change already. So I do have a lot of hope that will be coming. And I think that there can be a lot of reassurance that every generation of pumps to come will still have aspects where you feel like I'm a little more cared for, and a little more feeling like this is taking care of a little more for me.
Yeah, I start thinking about, are we in the golden age of technology right now? Because in the last, I used to tell people it's like in the last 5 years, I feel like we've made more advancements, but I really think maybe even in the last 3, it's gotten better and better and better. If you were diagnosed 10 years ago, you're looking at what we have now and you're like, this is incredible. But if you're diagnosed in the last year, you're like, why isn't it better yet? Well, it's because this is all you've known.
Right. You're so true. I mean, back in the day, people were not leaving the hospital on CGMs. And I see people should be leaving the hospital on CGMs now, and more people are. And so even that is just knowing off the bat, like, that you have this support system of technology that you never had before, really, that you were fighting for, that you were wearing something where you had to put a garbage bag over yourself in the shower. I mean, we've come a long way.
Yeah, we have. I always joke around with people. I say, listen, if you had one diabetes tech that you're like, I only get to pick one of them, what would it be? Can you answer that one? Because I have my answer, but I don't know. What do you think? I
feel like it's wrong of me to answer as someone who doesn't live with type 1 diabetes. However, what I see my patients, what I see their life changing over is going from not having a CGM to having a CGM. Like, that to me, and to honestly any of them across the board, like, I find them to feel this sense of relief and support and like a little bit off their mental load, despite there being, the other things that we talked about, but that I've seen just change lives.
Yeah. It to know where you are, as opposed to I'm checking. I mean, if I was lucky, I check 4 times a day. Right. Before, like, to get a snapshot 4 times a day and not know what I'm doing in between. Yes, there is some, maybe not a mental load, because I don't know what it is every second of the day, but there's also a part of that that's kind of scary, not knowing where I'm at. So yeah,
arrow, right? Like the fact that, like, I'm trending upward, I'm trending downward. Right. That's really nice.
So I've heard some people say too that the number is important, but the trend arrow is equally just as important, if not maybe more. Is that accurate?
I fully believe that. That to me is where patients are coming back to me and saying, like, this is where I was scared to go to work because I wasn't sure where I would trend. I can't bring a glucometer out in my job. I'm a construction worker. This is a patient I had the other day. Couldn't bring it out in my job, but the CGM is going to alert me if I have a straight arrow down and I know to grab something.
Yeah. So I was running yesterday. I went on a really long run yesterday, and I was about an hour into it, and I looked down. My CGM said 107. You're like, oh, that's fantastic. But I had a diagonal arrow, like a gentle arrow down, and I'm like, all right, I know based off of that arrow, I need to eat a couple of glucose tablets as I'm out there running, because unchecked, that will drop. And it still did. 104 by itself is not as helpful as knowing what the arrow is.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. That really makes a difference in what you're doing, especially when you're exercising, right? You need to know what to prep for.
Yeah. Okay. So I asked a bunch of people, and this is the part you didn't know was coming. So, hey, yay, surprise. So I asked a bunch of listeners of the podcast, like, hey, what is one thing you wish you could ask, or maybe even tell your endo? I firmly believe that the reason why you've earned trust is because of 2 things, Doc. The first one is empathy. You have so much empathy, but if we just had empathy, but we didn't have the competency side of it, that's not one of those without the other is not as helpful. And you have both. And that is what builds trust. So if you're okay, I want to take a stab at some of these and just tell me what you would say, what you would, whatever. These are things that people like wish they could say to their endo, but they just don't. You okay with this?
Yes, I love it.
All right. So the first one is, they said, like, I feel like I'm always failing. Can I just say that to my endo? Is that a safe thing to just say?
Can I just tell you, I just got the chills hearing that. And if I could, yes, it is 100% not only okay to say, I want so badly my patients to tell me what they're feeling. I've had so many patients come in and say, Doc, you're going to yell at me. Like, have I ever yelled at you? Like, right. I want you to tell me, why do you feel that way? Is it because you're scared of something? You're worried? You're disappointed? What is it? I want you to tell me that, because if you can't tell me how you're feeling about it, I don't feel that I'm going to help you in the best possible way. And I so badly want to be on this team with you. And I want you to leave feeling like you were supported. And if you leave that appointment and you're like, I didn't even tell her how I felt, then I think that you're not going to get as much out of it, and you're not going to get what you need, which is the most important part. So please always say that. And I'm sorry, for anyone who does feel that way. We're in it together, and let's work it out and figure out what we need to do.
Yeah, it is such a, it's kind of I have to give myself a pep talk. I've been doing this for a long time, going to the endo, but why do I still go? I know what my A1C is probably going to be. Like, it's not a surprise, right. But I don't know why I get so nervous when I go in there sometimes. It's so wild.
I know, it makes me sad, but you're not alone. I hear that a lot. I hear it a lot. A lot of people will come to me and say, like, I don't even know where to start. Like, I haven't had good experiences, frankly. And we start there. Like, tell me about it. Let's talk through it. And I think everyone deserves to have that experience where someone is in that room supported with them. And I know there's a lot of incredible endos out there who will do that. And I hope that everyone finds that person. Yeah. So I have an incredible endo. Like, he has type 1. He and I talk about all sorts of stuff when I go in there, but I still get nervous. I even tell him that. I'm like, Doc, I don't know why. I'm like, why am I nervous about this? Which actually, there's another question that came in here. It says, like, why does one bad A1C feel like it's this moral failure, even when I've tried so hard? Ooh, it's a great question. I think that can be many different things in people's life. It is like a report card. It is like a test. I have felt that in school. I feel like that's a good analogy to come in and say, this is a number, right? This is not defining you. Right. And that is something that I always have a conversation with my patients. There are so many things that an A1C can tell you, and some of it are influenced by other things. There can be inaccuracies, first off. There can be influences outside of that. Anemia is one example where that number can be brought down. And so it is always important to interpret that number in the context of many other things. It is always important to interpret that number and say that is one small snapshot. That is one photo on your iPhone. That is not all of the photos. That is not your entire summer. That is not your entire life. That is one thing. And in the scheme of things, it is really important as an endocrinologist for me to explain, or for me to first off ask where that concern comes from. Is it, I'm worried because I never like seeing XYZ number, or am I worried because I'm worried about complications? Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the facts of what is the likelihood of complications? Where are we now? Which is very different than when your grandparents were talking about complications in the past. Yep. It is a different world, a different conversation. And so I think that coming from a fact of what is your fear and why is that? And that doesn't define you. And that's incredibly important. Gosh. Okay, America's Endocrinologist. I'm just telling you, think about that as a title, because we need more of you. And there are amazing endos out there. But I also understand there is some of this where we feel like it's an indication of how well we have been doing, and that's the problem. We're managing something that is not easy, so it's so difficult to do it. This last question. They said, "How do I tell my endo I'm so tired? I'm not lazy. I'm just tired." How would you recommend somebody goes in with that kind of honesty? I will never assume anything of what you're feeling and where you're coming from. So I think it's incredibly important for you to come in and say, doc, I'm exhausted, flat out. Tell me, let's talk through it, because I think there are ways in which we can talk through how to manage that for you. I wish there was a pill that I can give you that would take this away. And like we said earlier, that you don't have to worry about this for X number of times.
Right.
But the fact is we could talk about ways to make it a little more simple. And for example, I have patients who come to me who are going through something in their life, whether it's something really exciting or something really hard, and they are exhausted because not only with all of that, they're living with something that requires all of their attention. And some of it is, let's talk about your goals here. What is your goal? My goal is to get through my wedding. Okay, well, can we take stepwise? Can we say, hey, for the next few days, I'm just going to look at breakfast time, and I'm going to focus on that. I'm not going to try to make everything this goal, this perfect goal.
The whole day has to be perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because that's overwhelming. That's really overwhelming to me. And so I think breaking it down for patients, meeting them where they're at, asking them what's going on in their life, and saying that it's okay. It's okay to be where you are today. You are doing an amazing job and you are here. Yeah. I thank you for being here, first off, because that in and of itself, coming to that appointment is a really huge hurdle.
Yeah, they showed up.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
that's part of it. Yeah, they showed up, and honestly, for themselves, which is really, really honorable.
Right.
Okay, so let's turn the table on this. When it comes to technology, what would you say, like if you had a chance to speak to somebody just about the role of diabetes tech, and some of it works well, some of it sometimes doesn't, whatever that is, what would you tell them? Like if you had a chance to say one thing about the balance of it and all of that, what would you say to them?
I would say that there's a lot of different opportunities out there. There's a lot of different things that might work for their life. And the fact is, I do say this every day to my patients when they're considering different things and or changes to their diabetes regimen. And so I say there are a lot of options. Let's talk through them. Some of them might be right for you and some of them might not be. And here's why. Let's talk about this specific thing. Here's the pros and cons as it relates to you, Neil, you, the person in front of me, not the general population. I know that you exercise and that you run, and for you, it might be important to have X, Y, and Z part of your device. And so we might talk about things in that respect. So let's figure out what's important in your life, and then let's fit that in. Because I think it's short-sighted to go in and say, technology is amazing. It is, but technology is amazing and you should do it because here's the device that's best for the majority of people. That's not a good approach, right?
No.
Because there's so many pros and cons to all the different ones, but really it's what fits best in your life.
Yeah, it's kind of matching it up to the person and what their goals are. Would it be safe to say it's okay for you to have goals when it comes to living type 1? There's not just, these are the goals you need to have.
100%.
You got to match that with the person, right?
Yeah, and that's really important. And that's where I feel like patients tend to come in and be like, I guess I need to be on a pump now, doc. And they approach it in that sense because it was set up for them in such a, you failed and now you need a pump. And it makes me really, really sad because it's not that. It's what do you want? Do you want to be on a pump? Do you want to count your carbs and input them in and have them take care of, some algorithm for you there? Yep. Let's talk about that. Or do you say, I've had patients, for example, look, I forget my Novolog pen every time I go out. I'm just not going to remember it. It's really difficult. I don't have a purse. I'm not going to carry it in my pocket. Patch pump. I don't feel like going, like there's so much different technology on there, right? And there's so many aspects of, oh, that would be great. I want to do a few clicks. I don't know if I'm ready for another device yet, whatever it is. There's a spectrum and there's things that might be right for you that might not be right for your brother, your sister, your friend, whoever it might be.
And that's okay.
That is more than okay. It is meant to be. That's why so many different ones exist. If it was one size fits all, I don't think that all the other ones would be out there. So
yeah, you're right. Hey, I wanted to jump in the middle of this episode really quick and just say, listen, I get it. Managing type 1 diabetes is hard. Getting that care shouldn't be. And you might be hearing Dr. Monica talk about this a little bit, and you hear some of us mentioning Blue Circle Health. I just want you to know, spoiler alert, Blue Circle Health, they offer free virtual care from real endocrinologists, educators, coaches, people just like Dr. Gomberg. So you can go to bluecirclehealth.org to sign up for free. Right now, they're in 11 states. They're expanding rapidly. She'll talk more about that, but I just thought it would be really cool just to say something about it here in the middle. And now back to the show. Okay, Doc, before we get into true and false, which is coming up next, I have this is controversial. I don't really know. Do you think diabetes technology is making us lazier or is it making us smarter?
Can I pick a secret third option that you didn't?
There's a third. Okay, yes, you can. Yes.
I think it's making people braver. I think it takes so much bravery to try something new, to try something that you haven't tried before, to be unsure what it's going to tell you, what it's going to alert you about, and to say, this one didn't work, let me try this other one. That is brave. I'm in awe of my patients every single day when they're like, yeah, sure, doc, let's try that. It's something attached to you. It's something so invasive in your life, and that's bravery. And so I think of anything else, that's where I land with devices.
Okay. All right. You win that one. That was not, that was the perfect improv. It is a yes. And it's those, but it's also this. Okay. All right. Let's do some true or false here. These are pretty simple, but if you give an answer, I'm not going to tell you which one's right or wrong. You're the doctor. I'm not. Okay. So, true or false, CGMs are always more accurate if you calibrate them more often.
False.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
Like, why is that? Like, why do we think if you calibrate them more, they're going to be more accurate?
Yeah, no, I mean, if calibration is important, especially for some of them, right? But we know, so there's also this sense of accuracy that patients feel like I want it to be the exact same as my blood finger, my finger stick.
Right.
And that's also a sense of like, that's never going to be, because of the fact that it's testing something different. So there is that aspect. So it's accurate for what it is. But I also feel that there are innate inaccuracies that even the companies will tell you. And it's something that they're continuing to work on, that MARD, which is a number that tells you how accurate it is. And it continues to get better, but it's not 100%.
So when we are doing a finger stick, and I know you've seen 1,000 of these videos, I think I've done them. I'm like, well, my CGM says this, but my blood says this, so it's inaccurate. It's just not on the same time frame. Like it's behind, right? Is that accurate?
Correct. Yeah, I like to think of it like a train. And so your finger stick is at the front of the train because it's testing your blood directly. That should be accurate, right? It's getting right in there. And so that's the beginning of the train. Your CGM is trailing a little bit. It's usually about 15 minutes behind because it's testing the fluid, not the direct blood. And so it'll get there. It'll get to what your finger stick did, but it delays a little bit. Now, that being said, I also tell my patients, if you have a low blood sugar on your CGM, you should do a finger stick. Let's see what is true, what is accurate. And so especially if there are rapid drops or rapid rises, it can take that finger stick will be a little more accurate for you.
Okay. So true or false, you should trust your pump and your CGM more than your gut.
I want to be clear that it is your experience, not your gut. It is your experience, your deep knowledge, your research that you have done, your knowledge of yourself. So maybe that is your gut, but I'm being a little more.
Yeah, no, I think that's so. If you have a bunch of experience with it and you've been in this scenario before, you're like, I have intuition. I have maybe it's experience. I don't really know what that is, but I've been here before and I know I need to double check because I don't feel like what that pump is saying or my CGM is saying. There's other times where I know I've made this mistake. I have blindly trusted whatever that thing is saying. And later on I go, man, I should have known better, but I just didn't.
Right. And I think all of that, right? All of that is real. All of it is true. All of it, my patients tell me. So I think there are aspects to both. And the important thing is to know that you do have the backup, for example, of a finger stick, or you do have the backup of your deep knowledge. You also have the backup of calling your endocrinologist and figuring out what to do together if there's something big that you need to go through. Yeah. So yes, trust yourself for sure.
Okay. I like that. You said it better than I did. So, all right. True or false? Your diabetes tech settings should be perfect out of the box.
No, false, big capital
Big
false.
false. Okay, caps on that. Why? Tell me why.
Yes, capital false, because it is something that we need to figure out. Like we said, most pump settings out of the box, so to speak, are determined based on one of two things or both things. One is based on what your previous insulin dosing or your previous pump settings, whatever it might be. So based on data. And it's also looked at based on weight. And we do calculations based on that. So it can be one or both of those things, depending on your history. But I always tell patients, this is a starting point. This pump is different than the last pump, is different than your MDI, your injections. And we will make changes based on you, your lifestyle, your body. And I feel those who are told, this is a pump, go forward. Those are the ones who have, in my experience, poor experiences and disappointment and sadness and shame and fear, because they come back and they say, well, this is terrible. Well, it's just not there yet. Let us change the settings for you and help you. The pump is not going to know you immediately.
You know how people, they haven't changed their weight on their driver's license in the last 20 years?
Yes.
When it comes to our pump, like putting that weight accurately in there, don't tell us what your ideal weight is. Like you want us to actually put our real weight in because it matters, right?
I do want your real weight. Exactly. It does matter.
I didn't realize how much of it is surrounded by that, right? Because you as a whole person matter.
Right.
And then there are different pumps that will do it, but they learn you over time. I know Omnipod does. It's based off what, like the last 5 pods is building that algorithm for you. So it needs some history and some time with you before it gets it right. Exactly.
And it does take time. And like you said, there are algorithms that will continue to learn you. And there are one, like if you're in manual mode or if you're on, a previous one that won't have that, it does take us to come together and make those adjustments. And that's normal and expected.
Yeah. Okay. Last true or false. I know you're going to be, this is obvious. Endocrinologists only care about the numbers.
Oh, no. Terrible.
Got her. No. She's fired up now.
Yeah,
everybody.
I'm so fired up because it makes me so upset because we don't care. I care about your numbers, right? But I care about you. I care about you. And that's the end of the day. It's like, I could never, to be honest, I could never see an A1C, and I could talk to you and figure out how we get to your goals, how we keep you safe and healthy and avoiding complications. And let's talk about what's going on in your life. The number is a number. It does not define you. You are never what your A1C is. You are an amazing person, and we are here together. And you showed up having the conversation, which is just such a huge hurdle.
That's incredible. That's a soundbite right there, Doc. That's what that is. That's good. That was really good. Okay. So we're going to wrap this up with a segment called The Fastest 5 Minutes of Your Life.
Cool.
What this is you are competing. So Rob Howe went before you, and before that, Ginger Vera went. I think Rob Howe is winning right now. I think he got 16 questions. We're going to try and ask as many questions as we can in 5 minutes. I'm going to set my phone timer here really quick. And the goal is we'll rapid fire it. Now, I may ask you to expand on it. I may be like, you need to tell me a little bit more there, but you ready for this?
I'm ready. I'm going to beat Rob.
Okay. Beating Rob Howe. So many have tried. He's incredible. Okay. Insulin pumps will still continue to improve more and more over time. Like they're not done improving. Is that right?
That is right.
What are they going to improve on?
I think they will continue to improve on what they have to offer. Like we talked previously about adding glucagon in the mix. They will also continue to improve their algorithms to make sure they're responding to your body, that they can react to what you're eating, and allow it to be a little more hands off as well. Is the goal for insulin pumps to just get smaller and smaller, or are there better goals for an insulin pump? I think there are different goals. Some people really like the smallness, and so I think that will continue to develop because that's really important to a lot of people. And others really like having that screen, that hands-on ability, and to make it smaller would make that harder. And we need people who can, with dexterity, handle devices as well. Yeah. Do you think that it is helpful that more insulin pumps have gone the way of controlling them from their smartphone? Do you think that's helpful? Ooh, I think that's a really great question. I think it varies on the person. I think a lot of people are scared of that, of having it in their phone. They want to keep that separate. And a lot of people, that's what you're carrying around. So yes, it's really nice to not have that. So I think it would be a miss to take one or the other away.
Okay.
I think they should keep
options
both.
is good. Okay. What is the weirdest low snack you have ever seen a patient eat?
The weirdest low snack. Oh man, this is a hard one for me. I feel like it's been really like whatever's around. And so it's not necessarily weird so much as like not helpful. But like, having like some chicken, like is not going to bring up your sugar. And so I've had people tell me that.
I ate a bucket of fried chicken. You can't, the Colonel can't help you right now. I promise. He can't. He can't do it. All right. What is one phrase that makes patients instantly relax?
I'm so happy to see you today.
Oh,
and
wow.
Yes, I think that opens up the conversation, and thank you for being here.
Yeah. Okay. Do you wish that people living with type 1 would either drink more water or exercise more?
Ooh. And it can't be both. If I had to pick one, I would say exercise more.
Exercise more. Okay, great. What is your favorite metaphor to explain type 1 diabetes to somebody new?
My favorite metaphor? You know what? I can't stop thinking about that recent campaign with the balloon.
Yes.
It's constantly keeping a balloon in the air. It's the constantness of it, and you can't let it fall because
Yeah, keeping it up in the air. Okay. So if endocrinologists had a theme song when they walk into appointments, what is yours? What is your at bat song?
Oh gosh, my 5-year-old will be so proud of me because the first song that came to mind is my fight song.
Yes. Okay.
Because we're in the fight together, and I love it.
I got it. All right. What is one diabetes myth that you wish came with a giant red wrong button, like wrong?
There's so many things flowing through my head. Oh my gosh, and I'm clocking out my time. I think the myth, it's not a myth so much as a stigma, but the myth that it is no big deal and that you just take a few injections here and there with your meals. It's not so much the people obviously the people living with diabetes, but everyone else in the world is the myth of what diabetes is.
Yeah, it's so much more than that. You're absolutely right. Okay. Would you rather explain carb ratios to a toddler or Bluetooth syncing to a type 1 diabetes device to a grandparent?
Oh gosh, I've done both, and they're both very hard. I think carb counting to a toddler because it was actually a lot of fun, despite being really difficult.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, that can't be easy. That can't be easy. All right, who is your favorite medical TV doctor or in a movie?
Gosh. Noah Wiley.
No kidding. Well, the pit is in Pittsburgh, and you're in Pittsburgh. So you're absolutely right.
So much love. Yes.
Okay. What is the T1D patient superpower you wish that more people recognized?
I think it goes back to what I said earlier. The bravery, like wear a cape all the time. You are so freaking brave and strong, and that is your superpower. You are doing this every day, and I'm in awe of you.
Yeah. That's strong. All right. If you're stranded on a desert island living with type 1 diabetes, what is the one device or tech that you can't live without? Last question. There's your timer.
CGM.
CGM. Okay. Yeah, that would be really good.
I want to know what's happening. I'm a person that needs to know what's happening all the time. And so I just want to know.
I want to know. I don't want to be in there blind. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. All right. I think you're at 14. I'm going to go back and double check that.
All right.
14 is solid. Okay. All right. Tell people a little bit about what you do with Blue Circle Health. Give them the pitch. Why do you do it? What is it about? Because there are a lot of people in the type 1 diabetes community who are like, wait, free diabetes care? And it's like, what is the catch? Just tell them about it.
Yeah. Well, so Blue Circle Health is a free virtual platform for adults who live with type 1. We provide care, education, and support. And I think the important thing is to know like why we exist. And we talked a little bit about that with the endocrinology deserts. But I want people to understand that those who live with type 1 diabetes are they're fighting two wars. We know that they're fighting this concept to to stay alive and to thrive with type 1 diabetes. And we're also fighting to get access to what they need, not only endocrinology care, we talked a lot about here, but access to their devices, to medication, like to insulin, my goodness, to just their basic hormonal need to stay alive. And the fact that that all exists together is just mind-blowing. It shouldn't be this hard. And that's why Blue Circle Health came into existence. And so we took that giant gap and we said, let's fill it. Let's work with the existing care teams that are already providing the care to patients. Let's work alongside them and let's provide additional support for the patients that they're seeing. And so in order to do that, we have virtual access, free access to endocrinology care, to diabetes supportive counseling, that aspect of that mental health load that I felt we so desperately needed, case management, to connection to prescription assistance programs or resources in the community, housing, transportation to get to your appointments, T1D's peer support guides, those who live with type 1 and the community around them. Many people who have not met anyone who lives with type 1 who's walked in their shoes. We also have insurance navigation, and we have education and nutrition specialists. And on top of that, we also have 2 programs to provide free devices to patients. And we have the ability to have patients apply for financial assistance for their T1D meds and supplies. All of that I wish can be provided in our regular healthcare systems. But the fact is it can't, because these things are not reimbursable. And so people are not getting it provided to them. And there's not enough people out there. And so we're in 11 states currently, as you mentioned. We're rapidly expanding across the country. I hope we're where your listeners are. And if we're not, I hope we'll get there soon. Follow us along and we'll tell you where we're going. But we have the ability to meet you where you are. And I hope to meet all of you. And I hope that you all get what you need when you're T1D life. And I feel like so much of that can be provided at Blue Circle.
So I tell it's in every single one of these podcasts. I tell them, go sign up for free at bluecirclehealth.org. And like, I don't know if they hear that and they go do it, or they get curious and they go to the website. What happens if somebody is in one of the states that Blue Circle Health is in and they go sign up for care? Like, what happens after that?
It is so easy. So you go to bluecirclehealth.org, you click a button on there, you put your information in. There's very little, like 1 minute of information. You're going to get a phone call from one of our enrollment specialists. One of them, her name's Christina. She's going to call you, and she calls you within an average of 2 days. So you're getting a call promptly. You'll get on a phone call with her. She'll go through your new patient information just like you would any new patient paperwork at an appointment. She'll get you signed up. And before you hang up that call, you'll have an appointment 2 days later. Wow. So we're making appointments within days. You're not waiting months. I was seeing patients in previous practice and I'm like, I'll see you in 3 months. Good luck scheduling that on your way out, right? Because I don't even know if I have an opening then. But we'll see you as much or as little as you need in that time frame. And we're seeing patients for 6 months here at Blue Circle Health. So we can get you what you need in that time. I
don't know if people realize how fast that is. Like that's kind of mind-boggling fast. So when I get done with my endocrinology appointment, they go to schedule me, and Doc, I'm not making this up. There is zero exaggeration in this. They have a half-day pump clinic that they see pump patients. It is the 3rd Wednesday of every month from noon to 4. That's it. Like, that's the only time slot that we actually have. And I'm like, okay, so if I miss in 3 months, they're not going to get me in for another 6 just because of how stacked they are. Right. I don't think people understand how quick of a turnaround this actually is. Yes. It's fast.
It's fast. It's very fast. And we have a lot of patients who have that wait, for example. Like I might love my endocrinologist, great, but I have an appointment in 6 months. Let me see Blue Circle Health in that time frame, get the support I need. Your endocrinologist will love it because it's something that they feel like, great, I'm so glad you're getting the help. Yeah. I wish I could provide it to you, but unfortunately I don't have the time as a endo in the field. So, but here we can. And so
you're not really cheating on your endocrinologist by doing this. You are getting they honestly wish more patients would go out and do this because they're like tag team in with somebody else. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. We're working with the endos out there, and they're so happy that we can do this together.
Okay. I'm going to put your Instagram handle in the show notes if people want to follow you as well, but they can definitely follow Blue Circle Health. Thank you. Thank you for bringing so much heart to what you do. I know when you said it earlier, you said it's not just a number. Those numbers, we don't even want you to feel like that they have a feeling. That is just part of who you are. You're a much bigger person as a whole person. And I believe you. When you talk, I believe you. And I'm just really, really honored that you took some time to help us talk about the other side of the diabetes tech. Like, tech is a part of it, but you as a person, there's so much more than just that.
So much more than that. Absolutely. And yes, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. And thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for what you do. So many of my patients learn so much from you, and I really appreciate this being out there for them. So thank you.
All this stuff that we have to manage, all this technology, all these devices, the fact that you're still out there working on it is an act of bravery. I love what she said about that. If this conversation gave you a moment of relief, or maybe if it reminded you that you're not alone, please share this with somebody who might need it the most. Share it with somebody that you know deep down they're like, okay, this is what I needed. You can find out more information about Dr. Monica and sign up for free care at bluecirclehealth.org. This podcast is just one of my favorite things ever. New episodes drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Until next time, remember, you're not doing a bad job. You're doing a difficult job, and there is a difference, and you are just crushing it.